Here's the definition of coloniality that Dr. Ward Robinson brought up from Anibal Quijano. It can be described as the matrix of power relations that persistently manifest despite a former colony's achievement of nationhood. It attempts to capture the racial, political, economic, social, epistemological, linguistic, gendered hierarchical orders imposed by European colonialism that transcended independence and continue to oppress in the needs in accordance with the needs of capital accumulation. And again, it's not an all-encompassing word. People will argue that maybe racial capitalism is something better. Kwame Nkrumah talked about neo-colonialism because, for example, my colleagues that are descendants of people enslaved in the US would say we were not, ancestors were not colonized, they were enslaved. Or, people in India would say we have this caste system. It's not really a colonization. I kind of look at it more as a metaphor phenomenologically of, people's life worlds are colonized, whether it's through a caste system or whether it's through patriarchy. I've worked with women in Democratic Republic of Congo that would say things like the men are colonizing us. And so it's more of the relationship that we're getting at, and then the actual description of, a metropole and periphery. Next slide, please. Another definition from Ramon Grosfugel from Berkeley says that the heterogeneous and multiple global structures put in place over 450 years did not evaporate with independence. We continue to live under the same colonial matrix of power. So we've moved from global colonialism to the current period of global coloniality. Next slide, please. And then Sabelo Ndlovu has to say, despite the celebration of decolonization as a milestone in African history, which is where I do most of my work, Africa has not managed to free itself from epistemological colonization, inscribed on the continent and its people by mission and secular schools, schools of medicine, schools of public health, religious denominations, and other Western institutions that carried Western cultural imperialism. That's essentially what the book is about, how what we call public health science isn't necessarily this objectively neutral foray into gathering capital T truth, but rather something that carries Western cultural imperialism. And so my plea is for people, the way to disrupt, I think, is for people working in this realm to realize that it's not always that they're after these, truths to share with people. More often, they should be after how they're used as instruments of power.